Alright, what's going on everyone? Thought I would make a short video just showing you how I sharpen my saws. I don't do anything fancy, I just do some basic sharpening, but I think the best indicator as to whether what you're doing is working or not is evaluating the performance of the saw. So, there's so many different techniques and videos on how to sharpen the saw, but ultimately it comes down to, is the saw performing the way you want it to perform? So depending where you are, you could put the saw in a vise, or if you don't have a vise available, what I do with bigger saws is typically rest it on the ground or in the back of the truck, and I lean over it so that it's in between my legs and I'm holding it, and that way I can run my file without having it wobbling around. Some people might, rest it on a tailgate and lean over it like that. But for the bigger saws and even the smaller saws, I've found just putting it in between your legs and holding it that way works well. So basically I just run the file against the tooth in line with the angle of the tooth. And push back against the file, so I'm not just running it like that. I'm holding the saw and applying some force to make sure that it is obviously filing the tooth. See how quickly that sharpened that edge up. Typically, I will go over each tooth anywhere from, say, 3 to 12 plus times. It all depends on how much sharpening it needs. If you take care of your saws and you keep them sharp, it shouldn't take a lot to keep them sharp. Whereas if you wear them out to the point that they're dull, or maybe you hit something in a tree or on the ground, then obviously, they might need some work. But basically, I don't necessarily count how many times I go over. I more so just go based off feel. So rubbing my thumb against the tooth, just like with other areas in tree work and climbing, the more you do it, the more it kind of becomes second nature and you don't really have to think about it. But if you're just starting out, I would say anywhere between 3 to 12 plus times, depending how much it needs it. But you can also learn to tell what a sharp tooth looks like and feels like. Now you got the rakers here. I don't sharpen those, or take those down, I should say, every time I sharpen the saw. It kind of depends on how much I've been using it and how much I take off a tooth when I file. So again, this isn't a one size fits all. It's something that really has to kind of be learned. You've got to gauge the performance of the saw and use that as an indication as to what you need to do. So when I do file the rakers, I take a flat file here. Sorry, this is all rusted because it got wet, but I basically just run it over 1 or 3 times. I do not go aggressive with the rakers. So basically just 1 or 3 times, and I do every raker about the same because I don't want to have them be different heights or anything like that. So typically I'll go more evenly with the rakers as far as the number of times I run the file over versus the teeth, because with the teeth, it all depends on how bad each individual tooth is. And I guess you could say the same is true for the rakers, but I'm definitely more conservative with how much I file the rakers compared to the teeth. So basically I would just take it and just go 1, 2, however many times I feel it needs to be done. And they do have devices that you can buy that might look something like this, where you can use it to determine whether your rakers are too high. But as I mentioned earlier, when you do it consistently, for a while, I feel like it's not something that has to be thought about as much. So you can tell based off how the saw is performing whether you need to sharpen it, whether the rakers need to be taken down, and as far as filing each individual tooth, like I said, typically I would say anywhere in the ballpark of running the file over anywhere from 3 to say 12 plus times, but it all depends on each individual tooth. So that's kind of why I gave a range for those of you out there who are just starting out. But for the experienced people out there, that it's pretty much just visual. So how does it look? How does it feel? And then how is it performing? So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do. You can definitely tell the difference between a saw that is improperly sharpened or dull and a saw that is correctly sharpened. So hope you all enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear if you guys have any questions or any specific videos you'd like me to make. Any questions for me? I appreciate you all watching. I appreciate everyone who has recently subscribed to this channel. And I'll see you all next time.